thank you so much for inviting me into your space. My name is Jabulile Buthelezi Kalonji. I'm a passionate storyteller, a trained business journalist by profession, and at the heart of what I do is a dedication of a social justice activist. I suppose all of these things have given me a wonderful journey over the past 13, 14 years, working for my community at grassroots level as an activist, trying to really make change that's quite significant and impactful in my very own community. And I suppose also, as I was navigating the space, finding and seeing the need to really help capacitate those who are younger than me, who are coming after me, so that one day when I'm no longer there, they can be able to advance this good work, because this work is quite important as it is directly linked to the development of who we are as people, because this is our Africa. We do not have any other place. We may access the global community, but what we have is Africa. I'd like to share a little bit about leadership and mentorship, and really not, hardcore stuff, but just to perhaps say that the industry that I'm in is not a very difficult industry to get in. Media, communications, stakeholder relations, the comm space is, anybody can do that, right? Anybody can get into that space. But I suppose what's important is the significant impact you then make once you're inside, and how you try to link and align that actual industry trade to who you are as a person, your skills, your passion, your calling. And I think I have been perhaps quite lucky to be able to identify some of the things that I really do love, things that I'm really passionate about, like leadership, like Africa, development, and young people. Now, this has helped me from day one when I started practicing as an intern when I was a journalist years ago, because I understood that whatever I do, especially as a person who has the power of the pen and perhaps the voice sometimes as I do speaking, is to be able to be quite deliberate in my work, position the things I do and say quite deliberately, because for many years and centuries, Africa has not been well positioned. The narrative about Africa is a little problematic, even sometimes from Africans themselves. Now, I'm not here to fix that problem, but I'm here obviously to contribute towards advancing the continent itself to a much more better and much more healthier place with whatever I can do in my own corner. And this is where leadership comes in. You do not need to wait for your government, I think, or some important major global organization to regard a badge of honor to you and name you an official leader of such and such a company or a space within civil society. I really think we all have the capacity to lead as people. If there's something in your heart that does not sit well when you see injustice happen and you stand up, even when the circumstances are not favorable, you are a leader. If you get up and within your mind that day, you cannot defy the urge of wanting to make a difference to somebody else, or if you are leading your life and people admire what you do, they may not say, but follow what you do sometimes, learn from what you do, you are a leader. Now, you do not need any badge or any special recognition for you to be told that you are a leader. And I think this is where we get stuck as Black women and just people in general, really. We wait for major recognitions for us to be named as such and such and as such and such before we can actually decide to impart our goals and our callings as people in our community so we can serve our communities. I think this is where we get wrong. So I took a decision from when I was a teenager that this is who I was. I was the kind of person who loved change. I was the kind of person who loved progress in life, and that I really wanted to help harness the potential that is a constant force for positive change for the African continent through development and many other ways that are quite sustainable. This type of work is not a work you do as an event. It's not the kind of work you do over a year or a particular tenure of office. It is a work of a lifetime. Quite selfless, actually, if I may put it, because half the time the recognition isn't there. So it's not always about the social media pictures and whatnots and all these other things that, are positioned as leadership. A little bit far from that, if anything. You work a lot behind the scenes because you actually are on the ground changing lives, dealing with hardcore real issues. And I think it takes a lot of courage, really, because this is why it's important for me to be seen imparting it to the younger generation. Because as Jabulile, I will not be here forever and ever and ever. And even if I am here for quite some time, at some point I will venture into other interests that obviously will come with me emerging and transitioning into becoming something else, or perhaps beginning to tap into other aspects of who I'm becoming as a Black woman as I grow older. But it's important that I consider and regard mentorship. Number one, I am a product of mentorship. So I will always advocate for mentorship, because if there are people in my life who never raised their hands to say, come in, sit with me, I'm busy, but I cannot give you time, so walk with me while I work so you can watch, I probably wouldn't have been able to be what I am, because most of what I've learned is from what I used to see them do, without them saying, do X, do Y. I would just be around them and I would learn. So it's important to really not be selfish with the spaces of prominence that you get, or the opportunities of significance and importance and all this euphoria of followings and all of that. Find a space, if you can, of course. You don't have to, but I believe it is a very good thing to do, to be able to find a corner for one or two younger people to come in and see how it's done, or at least by watching you do it, help them tap into something else that they like, and perhaps their potential will also be unlocked. So I'm really an advocate for that. It's important. And why is it important? Because for Africa to progress forward, when people who are in charge of certain things at this particular time begin to shift into other roles, we cannot have a vacuum. It's important for us to be consistent in building and developing our continent. Developing our continent sounds quite huge, but it starts at basic level of being able to influence resilient communities in our societies. And all that takes is one person who is determined to change their street, their social circle, their sphere of influence. So it's not quite a big thing, as you can see. It starts with you. And that's what leadership is all about. Being able to make a difference in your own corner first. And eventually that light continues to shine further into much more bigger, much more needed, more important corners eventually. But it's important that you start in your own corner. And I really hope young people, Black women, and just young people across the spectrum in Africa begin to really take themselves seriously. Do not doubt yourself, because you are so capable of so many things. But because we perhaps are not so focused and have so many questions about a lot of things, which is good, we then tend to shy away from the role that we should be doing. And I think that wastes time. We are an African continent. We have so much potential. And, so many people have taken advantage of us. So it's really up to us to fix it. We do not have any other place. We can access the global community, of course, but we really have Africa. If you think about it, there's nothing else that we have. This is all we have. We have to get Africa right, because Africa is all we have. And I believe that there's so much potential in Africa that before we begin to get things out of it, we should first invest in it. And we should be the first custodians of being able to see Africa like that. So I am grateful that within my work, I think as a professional, there are quite a lot of nuances that come up that constantly present opportunities for me to serve as an activist and really exercise my passion for upholding the overall cohort of human rights and social justice, which is great, because this is directly what is at the core of who I am as a journalist, I suppose as a storyteller, and a person who wants to see life progress. These are quite important that you link up to these things. But it's also not easy, right? Like I said, often the work is behind the scenes, but it's also not about being on the screen all the time, but about being part of the documenters of change that will be able to be part of an era that has been able to successfully shift a few things for the better, for not just ourselves and our generation, but for those around us and those coming, and just for our continent as well. So I hope it inspires somebody out there that you are a leader. Please don't wait for any special badge to be bestowed upon you and be declared an official leader by state or whatever. I really think within your space, you can do impactful work, and that just you as a person, you've got the capacity to function and to excel and in doing good and doing well by functioning within your own role as an individual. So I think if we can begin to accept that, and it will be easier for us to serve, because by the time you accept that this is who I am and this is what I'm called to do, there's just a number of opportunities that you will see without even being invited to, where you can see the gap that you can close as a means of trying to help assist close the gaps of your own community and eventually influence in the continent. So I'm grateful for spaces like Alara Women, that help us amplify our voices through our experiences, so that we can learn to understand that our work it has a central point that is quite common. So we do need to work together either way, one way or the other. We have to, because the center is one thing. Eventually we're all going to come back to one point. So we may as well, if we cannot work together, at least vouch for each other and continue to support each other. Thank you.